Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So both
but
of
in the
those
world
things.
generally.
And I think that, you know, the thing is that here's what we need to understand, that now these are two different paradigms. People that, like me, traditionalist Muslims,
Yeah.
have certain paradigms which I'm sure you're very aware of. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you've looked into our tradition, you've seen it. A lot of people are ignorant of that. And I think there's one thing that we need to know is that both of us need to know the nuances, like, of both of our traditions. So, for example, a lot of the problems I face is caricaturing of certain aspects of jurisprudence in Islam, law and so on. And so what I try and achieve is that I try and get people
Do you mean like inflexible aspects
Yes.
of Sharia?
Yeah. So I feel like there's so much more flexibility that exists in Sharia than people think are coming now. And also from the other side, there's a lot to learn about the West. And the Arab world doesn't know about it, or let's say, for example, I know more about the Arab world, but the Muslim world doesn't know about it in the way it should know. It's also caricaturing from both sides. I think the best hope for the future is actually education. I know it sounds cliche, but
No,
if people that me and you that don't agree with each other's worldview, but at the end of the day could come to a conclusion that there's more nuance in what this person is saying than what I originally thought.
I thought if I study Islam, I'm going to respect it less than when I set out. That was my, like, once I get to the bottom of this, I didn't become a Muslim, but I became quite reverential of the belief system and the thinkers, the intellectual tradition, which we were never taught about in school. I think there's an overselling of like Khwarizmi, and there's a like Muslims are better than everything that's in your iPhone, and like we don't believe in. Hopefully, we don't believe in that narrative, but just that. Give it a fair shake. Let's tell you the actual, the facts of this. Yeah, to eliminate those caricatures can only be hoped, because, I get as annoyed as, not that it matters, I don't do anything about it, but I get as annoyed as a Muslim making an overclaim as I do about someone denigrating Islam, which is, exactly the same kind of things. And so, that's a cliche we're both making. So,
but the nuances are there, and they just need to be. People need to be educated on them.
Do you see it as a kind of deliverance from chaos? That
Islam?
Well, our political systems are rocking and rolling. They're not, and the Muslim world is not without its troubles, but it has a long tradition. Religions have long traditions. What do you think of like the fact that, for instance, in America you have, or maybe in the world more generally, you have a question about whether there's even, two genders or two sexes, these kinds of things, which have stood solid in religious traditions, not all of them, but they have. Do you kind of see that the kind of breakdown of meaning in the world is a kind of harbinger of people seeking something which what we've both been looking for in this conversation has a foundation?
Yeah, I think I think you'd agree with me that human beings, they're pattern seekers, number one. And number two, they're purpose seekers as well. These are the two P's that I'm sure, human beings are pattern and purpose seekers. Yeah. And that's what's attractive about Islam. I think a lot of people come to Islam because it gives them pattern and purpose. This is why things are the way they are, and this is why you are the way you are, and why you are here even, right?
So it's like how the heavens go and how to go to heaven.
Yeah.
Gives you both.
Exactly. And atheism, in a sense, in an ironic sense, does something for atheists. That's, in a sense, I wouldn't say it's purpose or patterns, but it's kind of like ironically that, because if you think about what atheists are trying to do, they're trying to liberate themselves, really, in my opinion. They're trying to liberate themselves from some kind of superstition, from false beliefs, from what they consider as false beliefs, from many different things, from religious discourses, constraining practice, rituals and so on. All of that they're trying to liberate themselves. And in a weird sense, that actually facilitates kind of purpose for them, right? And that's why I was actually looking at one study, I forget the name of it now, but I can dig it up for you if you want, which analyzes, because a lot of these economic studies, like about the happy index and all that, that's not actually accurate, because it's not a psychological study. But there was one
Yeah, they're
particular.
just polls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're based on HDI and GDP, and it's not rather than actual.
There's two separate things. So there's one set of like the World Happiness Index is literally just a poll.
Yeah.
And then there's United Nations, I think. Might even be World Bank. I think it's United Nations, which is an index of the things which relate more to prosperity.
Yeah.
And they're like, is your water clean?
Yes. But then they aggregate those
You'd be
things.
amazed at places where the water isn't that clean and people
People
are
are-
happier.
yes, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what I was going to say to you is that there is this. I'm going to get you this reference because I hadn't to dig it up, but it's an interesting study which has been done on religiosity and happiness. And the idea is that the more religious you are, the more happy you are. However, what they found really interesting in the study was that atheists, which were very positive atheists or
On fire for atheism.
they also exhibited the same kind of happiness that those religious
it speaks
people.
to what you're saying about having like pattern and meaning.
Yes.
If you've got that,
And so I think that in terms of deliverance, obviously my worldview says that if you come to the Islamic understanding, you're going to get deliverance. But I guess people are going to find deliverance in whatever way they want to find it. But then the question is, how do you get purpose and truth and ultimate truth together?
Yeah.
And I think that genuinely, maybe it's something that Al-Ghazali said that we need to pay more attention to. Pay more.
He didn't end up in a good state of affairs.
Yeah,
I mean, in the end, he became
a Sufi. But then he was basically basing it on his instincts and his intuitions, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should look into our instincts and intuitions.
Interesting. Yeah, because then we have like a common cause that we both. This is the thing I found, like such sympathy with this guy that I thought. We'll end with this, but it's kind of an appropriate place to end. The reason that he was on first authors I looked up, first Islamic scholars of jurisprudence, of fiqh and kalam and everything was because he was so demonized by some scientific. So Stephen Weinberg said he killed off Islamic science with this book. And I'm like, I have to read this thing. It must be dynamite. And I realized it's a total misrepresentation. It's like a scapegoating, right, of this. And I found, as you always do, that the person is far deeper with these kinds of people. Some people you find are less interesting, but he was involved in exactly the same struggle that every human being is, trying to find pattern and meaning, and just. He was trying to be a good person. I don't know so much about whether he had this notion of being, a perfect person, but he was definitely trying to be honest. That's what comes across. It's like he can't lie to himself. It's like so why he made life so difficult for himself, and that he kind of relaxed into a deep faith, but not one where he's like, come at me, bro. I know everything, and in that I was like, that's someone I agree with, and so
hopefully you can agree with him some more.
Well, you'd like,
But I'm sure one day, man.
Pleasure,
man. It was fantastic, man. Thank you, man.
It was a
I learned a
pleasure
lot from you, man. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.